Hey guys, it's Bryce. Today we are interviewing Electronic Visions, also known as Luke, a Chillsynth and Synthwave producer based out of the Netherlands. Today we dive into a whole bunch of topics regarding the state of music as a whole, how he, found his sound and the inspirations that he took from, and also what's next for him in the future. This was a really awesome conversation, as per usual, and all of his links and anything that we talked about will be linked in the description below. Thank you. Here we go. First thing, just kind of want to go over some like personal stuff, and then we'll get into the music. How did you come up with Electronic Visions?
Good question. I think it was um, either late 2018 or early 2019. Um, when I was a pretty big fan of Vectroid,
Hmm.
uh, who was also known as Macintosh Plus back in the day. And she had this other alias called Laserdisc Visions. And I don't know, that name sounded really catchy to me. But of course, I wasn't gonna blatantly copy that name. So I kind of liked the Visions part, but I wanted to do something else than Laserdisc Visions. So I thought, like, you know what, I want to make electronic music, so why not put electronic in front of it? And
Sure. I
here you
think
go,
it. I think
Electronic
it
Visions.
fits your. It fits your style really well too. I feel like you do a lot of stuff that a lot of people aren't doing at the moment, so you're kind of like ahead of the game, so it makes sense.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Just kind of experimenting with different styles other than like the usual like chill synthwave stuff you see.
Sure. What are some of your favorite genres to listen to and some artists within those genres?
Ooh, good one. If you asked me this 4 years ago, I would have probably just said synthwave because that was pretty much the only genre I listened to. But throughout the years, I've become a big fan of a lot of genres. But I think, yeah, the ones I like the most are like outside of synthwave and all that stuff
Hmm.
is yeah, kind of like the other side of chill electronic music, what Boards of Canada did and what Aphex Twin did. I think that classifies under IDM or electronica.
Sure.
Um, but also like trip hop is yeah, was a still is a big influence. I think groups like Thievery Corporation, Massive Attack, Kruder and Dorfmeister definitely definitely big inspirations throughout the years, and but also big fan of stuff like progressive rock, post rock, even like indie rock is a has become a big inspiration for sure. So I guess those and kind of like Anjuna Deep style house is also high on the list. So that's just to give you an impression of what I usually listen to.
Yeah, you got quite a big spread there.
Yeah, I know. It's yeah, I don't know. It's just throughout the years. Uh, I got my Spotify subscription back in 2019, and that's where things kind of took off because Spotify's algorithm can be pretty fun to discover new stuff.
100%. What originally got you into the like synthwave, chillwave scene?
Um, yeah, I guess that's kind of started also back in 2018 when I kind of found out about Holmes music.
Hmm.
I think I heard Resonance in a meme. It's really weird to say that I the whole reason I started to produce music was because of a meme essentially, but it is true. I was in a meme compilation that me and my friend was watching, and for some reason that style really appealed to me, and I started to look up that song, and then I kind of fell in the rabbit hole of discovering artists like Yutsu, which became at the time my biggest inspiration. Uh, because we usually when you look up electronic gems and you click on resonance, the next video that's gonna be playing out of the recommended section is Sun by Yutsu.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how that happened, and then I started to check out more of electronic gem stuff like Allison and Four Hill, Hotel Pools, of course. And at some point, I was like, yeah, I um, I really want to do stuff like this. This is an amazing genre, and I never heard anything like it before. So yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to give it a shot.
That's crazy. That's really similar to actually how I got into it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Nice.
actually found Uutsu first, and then that led
Oh,
me to Home, and then that led me to like Allison and Hotel Pools and all them.
oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, Yutsu is a big name in the community, and um, it actually surprises me that Sun hasn't, even reached 100 million yet because it's a classic, you know.
Absolutely. Did you have any experience prior playing or making music before Electronic Visions?
No, actually, that's a funny thing because I wasn't that into music before 2017. Uh, I was usually just listening to a couple songs I knew from non-copyright sounds or Monster Cat.
Mm,
But no, it wasn't until I kind of got into the synthwave stuff um, that I actually explored different genres and different styles. But I come from a pretty musical family, though. I have quite a few family members who play instruments. My aunt plays the fiddle or the violin.
hmm.
And I have a whole French side of my family, and they all play different instruments. Like one plays the accordion, guitar. Uh, there are so many I can't even keep up with how many they play. But yeah, it wouldn't come to a total surprise that I follow their footsteps pretty much
That's
because
that's really
because
interesting that you had to kind of like unlock that potential to listen and make music.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what it was. It was just before like the whole Chillsynth thing. I was just um I don't know. It wasn't how do you say that? It wasn't one of my priorities
Sure.
to really get into that world, but it really opened my eyes. That's for sure.
Yeah.
After finding out about it.
In your opinion, what is the purpose of music?
Ooh, that's a philosophical question. Um, I guess um for like the purpose it should have for me is to convey emotions. Um, I think every piece of music conveys some kind of emotion, and I think that's a really important part. Like if you, I when I watch movies, especially thriller or horror movies, I just try to
Hmm.
um imagine what the movie would be like if there wasn't that really unsettling soundtrack. Um, and there's actually a pretty funny video of one guy he made an edit where he took out the creepy music in The Shining and put like some really uplifting classical tune
Hmm.
uh, on it, and the whole like vibe and emotion was just completely different. And it's when I first watched that video, then I kind of started to realize that yeah, music is has so much like effect on people in general, their emotions. Um, and yeah, I think that's the most important part.
I'm in 100% agreement with you. That's like the sole reason that I listen to music is to have some sort of way to like express emotion without physically expressing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing, especially nowadays with a lot of people having issue, feeling emotion and expressing it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's it's funny that you say that because of course we saw an increased popularity in kind of dark ambient music, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense,
Yeah.
like One Heart, um, kind of those guys. And it's really, I don't know how to say it. It's just good to see that it yeah, a lot of people find their comfort in that type of music. Of course, it isn't the happiest type of music, but it's comforting in a way. I listen to it too uh, whenever I had just have a day where I'm just not feeling up to anything. I usually put on that type of music, and um, I don't know. It brings this sense of comfort, and that's really important for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. Kind of switching gears more towards your music. I feel like you ride for the majority of your music. You ride a very thin line between chill synth and synthwave, while still maintaining your own like unique sound and style. How would you personally describe your style of music?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one because usually I get asked this question uh, by by people who I just met, right?
Hmm.
They was like, "Oh, you make music? What kind of music do you make?" And I haven't really found like the right term to describe it, because I started as like just a synthwave project, pretty much,
Hmm.
and then with Yutsu's and Holmes' influence, it became Chillsynth, and um, yeah, I don't know. It's um, like one of my biggest inspirations that you can probably hear in some of my recent tracks is Hello Meteor. His style is also it doesn't really fall in the chill synth category because he takes a lot of inspiration also from like 90s new age groups
Hmm.
or also trip hop groups or anything that's 80s or 90s and down tempo, right?
Sure.
But yeah, how I would describe it, I I'm not too sure to be honest, because I just like whatever comes to mind. I do whatever comes to mind. That's pretty much the thing. Um, and it all depends on the type of songs I listen to um, during a specific period of my life. I usually take inspiration from songs that I've had on repeat for a while. So that could be an EDM song or a chill synth song or a trip hop song, and pretty much you know that's where I get inspiration from for like the style, the chord progression, the overall emotion,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can I can really say about it.
That's okay. I know that's it's kind of hard to pinpoint, especially like it from what it sounds like you have a lot of creative freedom. Like you're not pigeonholed into one or two categories.
No, yeah, and that's the thing. I kind of start seeing that more with other artists in the scene, like Memorex Memories. He expressed his feelings multiple times about being so limited whenever you're making Chillsynth. Like it sometimes you feel like people don't want to hear anything that goes outside of the classic Wompy synths and
Hmm.
the gated reverb snares and stuff like that. And um, like he had some experience where he made a song that kind of went slightly outside of the usual style of chill synth, and people gave him shit for it.
Right.
Um, which is yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. Like I get that uh, fans expect some kind of chill synthy vibe coming from you, but at the same time, why would you just do the same thing over and over again? Like that would I don't know. I've tried just making chill synth songs, but it just at some point it just stopped working for me. I had to do something else with it in order to uh, make it fun or keep it fun, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. And like if if you do the same thing for so long, it starts getting stale and stagnant, and then you don't enjoy making it, people don't enjoy listening to it. It just like it starts a whole vicious cycle of bad. So,
Yeah, pretty much.
what creative choices do you make um to stay unique?
Ooh, well, sometimes I would just like I have a shit ton of plugins.
Mhm.
Um, I don't have that many physical hardware, so I'm kind of limited to like software only. But I usually just browse through like virtual instruments to see what kind of um, non-synth sounds there are, because that's kind of what has taken my interest. Like in Tales of Forgotten Biomes, my more recent song, um, there's some non-synth activity going on in there, and I feel like those small things can really, um, you know, spice it up a little, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I like that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to include more sounds that are more acoustic and more natural sounding, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. Um and I know the music scene in Europe is pretty big, especially like clubs and raves and stuff. Has that had any
Oh yeah.
influence over your style? Now, I think we're back.
All right. So the raves.
Yeah, raves, clubs, big in Europe. You're not a huge
Yes.
fan.
um. Yeah. Like. Yeah. The raves didn't really have a big impact on my uh style of music. I mean, like I do know a couple of um producers who produce techno. Like a couple of my friends, they are techno producers. They DJ
Hmm.
sometimes at certain clubs or radio stations, and yeah, whenever I attend those events, it's always a good time, and but it has never really had a big influence on my style because that type of music like techno, any type of dance music, right? Well, except maybe like melodic house or Anjuno type house.
Hmm.
They don't really have a big influence on my style because the overall emotion and vibe is just too different.
Sure. Yeah, that's understandable. That's you're in basically the opposite side of the genre with that. So,
Yeah, pretty much. Like dance music is supposed to make people dance, and what I'm trying to do is try to make people chill. That's, it's quite opposite for
Sure,
sure.
sure. You've done a fair few collabs, quite a few recently. Who is your favorite artist to work with?
Um, that's a good one. I mean, I like me and Zane Alexander really vibed well together. I feel like we did two collabs, Gamma Spaces and Health Bar,
Hmm.
and both of them went extremely well. Like the whole process. I mean, of writing it, producing it. Um, so I think for the other ones, like they were all great to work with. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but I feel Hello Meteor was also really cool to work with. He got things done really quick. Um, like I sent him a demo, uh, and he just like what he sent back was something completely different in a very good way.
Yeah,
And I don't know, it was like two puzzle pieces uh, falling into place. That song, Dana Point. So yeah, those were definitely highlights.
for sure. The two songs you have with Zayn Alexander, it was Health Bar and Gamma Spaces, right?
Yes, yeah.
Those two are fantastic. Like the synergy there is just amazing.
Ah,
And
thanks, man.
and
That's great to hear.
Data Point is also very good too. I feel like you and Hello Meteor also connect really well together. So
Oh,
I'm
thanks, man. That's great to hear.
what is your favorite collab song that you've done?
Ooh, I mean, of course, they were all great because if they weren't, they wouldn't be released.
Sure.
But um, I think um, it still goes to Dana Point. I think, man. Um, I don't know. It's Dana Point was one of the few songs I actually listened to myself because usually I don't really listen to my own stuff. But Dana Point was really like back in 2022 when I was still very limited in my musical knowledge.
Hmm.
Um, it was definitely a milestone, and um, I learned a lot from it, and that's what still makes it so special for me, at least.
That's awesome. How come you don't listen to your own music very often?
Um, of course I listen to it while producing, and afterwards,
Sure.
if I have to take notes on the mix or the master, but um, it honestly all comes down to working on a song so much that it starts to annoy you after a while. Like especially with my older work, that was during a time where, like I said, my musical knowledge was very limited, and I struggled a lot with getting a song to sound right, and a lot of time went into trying to get it all like pitch perfect. But when you work on a song for that long, after a while, it starts to bore you
Sure.
a little bit, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm done with it now. I don't want to hear this song for the next 5 months." Pretty
Yeah,
much.
that's understandable. I guess that makes sense. Listening to it basically on repeat for, months on end can get pretty draining.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, I could understand it if people are like, oh, but how do you know if that usually happens to you? Why, like, how do you know when a song is finished or not? But um, I would say that I do have an idea when a song is finished because in the back of my head, I still know what sounds wrong and what sounds right and what could appeal to people and what could not appeal to people. And it's kind of tough separating that from that, oh shit, from that kind of boredom you get from producing, like working on a song for weeks on end.
Hmm.
But I'm getting better at it for sure.
That's good. I kind of want to take a step back. You mentioned your older stuff and how you weren't near as experienced, but I don't really think that shows. Sound System, would you call that your debut album? I know you had Creation, but I don't know how
Mm.
you classify that.
Yeah, Creation was pretty much just a compilation of older works. I wouldn't really classify it as an album, to be honest. Sound System was definitely my debut album. Um, and even though for me the production is quite dated, um, it's still something I'm kind of proud of because it really kind of put me on the map in the Chillsynth scene.
Hmm.
And of course, Eyewitness Records thought it was good enough to press it on a vinyl. So that's also why it still holds a special place in my heart. But yeah, it was a lot of work getting like Sound System and Illusion of Time produced. Um, Like I remember right after Sound System was finished and sent to the label, I said to myself, "Damn, I'm never gonna be working on an album again because it actually drained the hell out of me." But then, of course, Illusion of Time happened, and like I finished writing another album back in January. Um, so times change,
Yeah, absolutely.
um, pretty much.
Um, the the difference in sound between Sound System and Illusion of Time is like it's pretty stark. Like they have very different feels. What inspired you to make such like a pretty drastic change in that like year and a half span?
um, Pretty much. A lot of experiences I've had, like in my personal life.
Mhm.
Um, Sound system was kind of made in the first lockdown, um, back when we didn't really know what the hell was going on.
Right.
So I wasn't like too optimistic when I made that album. Optimistic as in I wasn't too optimistic about what was going on in the world.
Sure.
Um, where the you know what the virus was going to do to us, um, what the lockdowns were going to do to us. Um, but I think as the months went on, I started to become even more pessimistic about it, and I don't know, Illusion of Time kind of, um, how do you say that? It kind of originated from my frustrations with wasting a lot of time doing nothing in those lockdown phases.
Hmm.
Um, and at some point, it was just getting a bit too much for me, and I didn't know how to express it, so I tried expressing it in music, and that's pretty much how Illusion of Time came to be, pretty much. And then, yeah, it is a pretty drastic change, but it's yeah, it's all just personal experiences, pretty much.
Sure. And I feel like that message for Illusion of Time is conveyed beautifully. Like that whole album just has a like a haunting theme around it. Um
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to do. So it's cool that somebody noticed that.
yeah, and specifically Chronophobia was one of the most like beautifully haunting experiences I've ever had.
Oh,
Um
thanks.
after I listened to it, I just sat at my desk and stared at my screen for like 5 straight minutes. Um it was it was fucking mind-blowing.
Oh, that's so awesome to hear. Because that was a pretty personal piece of music, um, for me. Because the chronophobia is kind of the fear of um passing time,
Hmm.
and that was the whole reason I named it that, because sometimes I did feel like I was developing some sort of chronophobia. Um, but yeah, the whole track was just pretty much inspired by like Aphex Twin's ambient work. Um, because I feel like some of Aphex Twin's ambient songs also um, contain this really haunting feeling, if you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
Rhubarb or like number 3 or number, what was it, 20? Um, especially those two are what I consider to be like the biggest inspirations for that song for sure.
Yeah, and it definitely shows in being able to take that idea of like the fear of passing time and then translating it into an ambient song like that that seems like unfathomable to me as someone who doesn't know how to make music. What I guess you kind of answered it already. Where did the idea of creating an ambient track come from? Because
Oh
that's
yeah,
pretty
it's
stark from like the general type of music that you make.
yeah, that's a good one. I think I just wanted to be a little bit different, honestly, from the rest, and I feel like whenever I listened to Chillsynth albums back in the day, there was a lack of ambient songs on there, and I was like, all right, I want to change that. Um, but also just because at the time, I like, of course, I had my personal struggles, not just with lockdowns, but with a lot of other stuff too.
Hmm.
And Aphex Twin really helped me get through those times, and that's why like songs like Rhubarb really hold a special place in my heart. And which is also why I wanted to, like, I felt the need to include some sort of ambient song on the album, just as an ode to him and other ambient artists that have kept me sane pretty much during those times.
Sure. And you've released a couple more since Chronophobia. Is that something that you plan on doing every once in a while in the future?
Yeah, man. I mean, ambient is it's such a fun genre to experiment with. You don't have to worry about rhythms or drums at all.
Hmm.
It's just pure soundscapes, trying to make it as spacey as possible. Uh, like for example, I've been experimenting with FM synthesis a lot because that's what Brian Eno used back in the day on his Apollo album to create those magical um, spacey soundscapes, and I really wanted to do something similar. And I feel, yeah, I feel I could probably do an EP or an album with that kind of stuff in the future, but we'll see where the inspirations will take me.
Sure. That would be really cool to have. Um,
Yeah, no, for sure. I 100% agree.
what are some of your personal biggest strengths in the music that you make?
My biggest strengths, or
Yeah.
um, yeah, I've never really actually gave that any thought. Not gonna lie, but um, I'm usually really focused on getting certain elements like chords or rhythms, getting it like trying to get it perfect. I'd say percussion is still a kind of a thing I definitely need to learn more about, but um, I guess throughout the years I've kind of gained some more knowledge about layering sounds, and it's honestly really fun to do. And I'd probably say that's one of my strengths.
Okay, and then on the inverse, what's one of your biggest weakness? I know you just said drums, but
Yeah.
anything else that stands out?
Just little bits and pieces. Like percussion, um, is one of them for sure. Coming up with a really good catchy melody is another one, but that's just hard to do in general. Um, and usually mixing. Um, Even after years of experience with just music production in general, I still have a lot of struggle with mixing just in general. Um, like I usually manage, but it takes me so much time to get everything right, and
Mhm.
I just develop like ear fatigue like every time I try to mix a song correctly. So yeah, it doesn't that doesn't really help. So I hope I learn some more about that in the future.
Sure. You have released a fair few singles. Would you consider yourself like a singles artist, or do you prefer making albums? I know earlier you had mentioned that you didn't like making albums, and then you started to get a feel for it. But
Yeah. It I guess it's just a mixture of both because it honestly depends on what I feel is the right thing to do. Like of course releasing singles is probably the easiest thing to do. You just make a song, you fully focus on that song,
Mhm.
you get it done, you send it to the label or distributor, and all the attention goes to that one song, and that's pretty much it. But I don't know. I've kind of um, re I've been re thinking the whole album thing throughout the years. Like after Illusion of Time, I definitely felt again like, oh, I don't want to do an album ever again. But then I started getting into like concept albums, like
Mhm.
Dark Side of the Moon, or like any progressive rock album with a specific theme.
Sure.
And that inspired me a lot to start writing albums again. So um, yeah, I guess I'm kind of more into albums nowadays, for sure. Like there's a new album coming. I hope this summer, fall at the latest. And that's also gonna have a specific theme to it. And yeah, I think I've refound the whole album thing, if that makes sense. It's definitely it's getting more fun to do. So I'm gonna say I like albums more, to be honest.
I gotcha. That makes a lot of sense, and I think that's honestly probably for the best that you don't like push yourself to make an album every single year, because that leaves you open to experiment with new sounds and have as much creative freedom as you want, and pick a theme that really resonates with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What drives your passion to create and release music?
Um. I'd say a couple of things. This is gonna sound weird, but I kind of like the competition part of it. Like you see people in the scene releasing new stuff. It all sounds spectacular. Like you and Alice when he dropped this his album Lone Drive.
Mhm.
Like when was it? In May or something? It was like for me, it was I completely fell in love with synthwave again, and I was like, I really want to make something like this, um, and that really drives me to create something that's, um, that's as good or even better than that. But it's a tough thing to do. I know you and Alice really has some talent for melodies and sound design, so it's got to be hard to top that. But yeah, I'd say that's the main thing I see. Like I hear people in the like I see people in the scene releasing new stuff. I listen to it. I'm like, damn, this sounds so good. I want to do something like this as well, and that is pretty much my main motivation. But also, of course, that people are actually listening to it.
Mhm.
Um, Never in my wildest dreams, back in 2018, uh, in this case, I wouldn't have even dreamed to have 17,000 listeners on Spotify, and I wouldn't have dreamed about, like, I could have only dreamt about getting featured on Electronic Gems, right? So
Yeah.
that's also a really big drive. Like, oh shit, we're actually doing this. It's actually happening. Uh, let's not mess it up now. Let's actually go for it.
Yeah,
Those
I
are the two main things.
I can only imagine how like euphoric it is to be like, man, I just want to make music, and then you pull up your Spotify and you're like, wow, like 20,000 people listen to me every month. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it once peaked at 30,000, and I just
damn.
couldn't believe it. I was like, what the hell is going? What am I doing right here? But yeah, it's awesome, and all those people who are listening are absolute legends.
And I really find it interesting with the other side of that mindset of, wanting the challenge of competing with other people. I feel like that's something that a lot of people, especially getting into the scene, kind of slowly rising up, would be scared of, would be like they're gonna get drowned out. Um,
Yeah, I felt that way for sure. It was like the first like 6 months of actually being active as Electronic Visions.
mhm,
I definitely felt that way. But the whole thing, and that's just the thing with the music industry in general. Uh, Half of it is gotta be like actually being good at it or getting good at it rather, and the other half is connections. Pretty much, like I've somewhere in 2018, I joined the Chillsynth Discord community,
mhm.
and if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be here right now, um, with 17,000 monthly listeners, with EG features, because I made a lot of friends in that community, and they all have been such a big help with promotion and
Mhm.
getting me to be the best musician I could be. And I'm really thankful for that. And that's also kind of a tip I could give to um, aspiring musicians, in this genre, but then also in other genres, is to find people who also do this stuff and try to make as many connections as you can and see where that gets you, because I had no clue what I was doing. I was just chatting around, and then at some point I had released a few songs. I had like 10 monthly listeners, and then somebody I had talked to was like, "Yo, I found this playlist on Spotify. It has like 10,000 likes. Maybe you can submit your song to that. Like, I know this guy behind this playlist. Maybe I can get you on there." I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, for sure." And then my song actually got on there, and that's where it kind of started rolling, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That was the whole start. So connections are so important. That's all I can say, pretty much.
I feel like that's really good advice, and it it allows people to not be so scared to reach out to people. Um, I know that's definitely something that I have struggled with in the past, is reaching out to people like you. I Our interaction prior to this has been relatively minimal, So I was a little worried to reach out. Um, but you just kind of gotta take your shot, and you never
Yeah,
know what'll
for sure,
happen.
man. No, exactly. I feel that, and I've been honestly, my confidence levels were really low as well when I started out, and they gradually throughout the years they went up a little bit. But I'm still insecure sometimes. Like imposter syndrome is a common thing
Hmm.
among us music producers. Like I read somewhere or I heard somewhere that even Neil Armstrong had imposter syndrome, which is crazy, right? He was the
Yeah,
like legendary astronaut, and even he has imposter syndrome. So it's a common thing and it's a common struggle. Um, but it's also like, what's the worst that could happen if you don't? And that's the kind of the line I keep repeating to myself whenever I'm like, for example, when I hit up Hello Meteor for a collab, I was like just going through my head like, oh shit, do I like would I mess up a potential connection there, or am I being too straightforward? But I don't know. I just said, what's the worst that could happen? There are a lot of other uh, guys in the scene who you could ask for a collab, so why not, right? And it um, turned out to be the best decision I've made, pretty much.
that that kind of leads me into this next question. What's the biggest hurdle that you've had to overcome in your career that you didn't anticipate?
Um, sorry, what does that mean exactly? Like the biggest obstacle, or
Yeah, yeah.
okay, yeah, yeah, the fear of getting rejected, man. That's it's still a big thing. Um, but I guess yeah, it all comes down to that thing, honestly. Like, uh, or the fear of failing is another big one, and that's the one I still have. Like a couple weeks ago, I was asked by a friend um to make a little mixtape for a pop-up radio he was doing,
Hmm.
and he also asked me to do an interview, and of course instantly I said yes, let's do it. But then as I was making the mixtape, I was like getting like thoughts of like, oh shit, what if, like, I've never made a mixtape before in my life until that moment, of course.
Sure.
Uh, so there were a lot of thoughts like, oh shit, this is gonna go horribly wrong, and this is gonna be an absolute piece of shit mixtape. But that in a weird way that also kind of motivated me to get it absolutely pitch perfect. Um, like getting the transition
Hmm.
smooth as I can. Like the track selection, getting the track selection to be as good as I can, um, and even when they were playing the thing live, I was just sitting there like sweating, like, oh shit. Oh, please, please like it. But they did, and I got a lot of positive reactions, and it all like though all of those thoughts turned out to be complete bullshit. So
Right.
there you go.
And by the way, the mixtape came out fantastic. I'll make sure to
Oh,
link
thanks,
it
man.
in the description on Spotify or on SoundCloud. It was phenomenal.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate hearing that. Honestly, like I'm also pretty happy how it turned out in the end. Definitely.
Yeah. We still good on time?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. How has your music taste changed from whenever you first started making music to your most recent release, which was a little over a week ago?
Yeah, I guess the first couple songs I made were mostly like, of course, inspired by Yutsu and Home.
Hmm.
And then I guess I also started listening to more like synth pop or synth like those synthwave pop, like the Midnight or
Yeah.
FM 84, I think.
Yep. FM
It's
84.
been a while. It's been a while since I listened to to those guys. So I was like, is it 83 or 84? Oh yeah, 84. Um, and that kind of led me to listen to the more chill wave, like the old school chill wave stuff,
Yeah.
like Neon Indian, Washed Out, those guys. Like
Hmm.
I've previously heard those on Radio Mirror Park in GTA 5, but I never really knew what the genre was and what other stuff they did. I only know what I know. I knew like one song from Neon Indian, and that was the one that was featured on the GTA 5 radio. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I started digging those guys. Um, and yeah, man, it's all of those other genres. I don't even remember how I got to them. If I looked at my discography, I'd say that like last year was definitely my trip hop era. Like Moonshadow and Cascade of the Mind were definitely made in a period where I was listening to a lot of trip hop. Um, and I'd say the songs that came after that had a lot of influence from like OG synthwave groups.
Yeah.
Um, Even like Glass Cube, the one I did with John Dunder, was really inspired just by vaporwave. Um, I was listening to FM Skyline a lot during the summer of 23. Um, and after that, it kind of became Hello Meteor, pretty much. Like Landline, Stills of Forgotten Biomes, and a lot of other stuff on my new album are pretty heavily inspired by Hello Meteor, just because I don't know what it is with him, but he manages to create such a smooth vibe with his music. Such like I don't know how to explain it. It's just great music, and
Yeah. I know what you
that's
mean.
just yeah. It's his music is unexplainable how good it is.
That means he's
But
doing something right.
yes, exactly.
Um, where do you see the landscape of the synthwave and chill synth uh, moving in? Oh, how, how the hell did I word this question? Where do you
No,
see the landscape of synthwave and chill synth moving in the next couple of years?
uh, good question. I like what I've been seeing from guys like you and Alice. Um, Guys like Vic, even Zane Alexander, what he's been releasing. Everybody just seems to be doing their own thing. Um, and I think that's a good thing, actually. Like, of course, people like Rosentwig have been doing that for a lot longer.
Sure.
Um, but I feel like a lot of people take inspiration from that, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe if I just combine it with other stuff, maybe something else that sounds really good comes out of it. And I think that's gonna be an increasing trend for sure. And also, it wouldn't surprise me if there were a lot of people in the scene that also start an ambient side project because I did it. I did that. Um, Adam Ford, one of my friends in the scene,
Hmm.
he's been doing it. And of course, since the whole birth of the synthwave boy from Lo-Fi Girl Records, we've seen some guys or some producers in the scene move towards more ambient stuff. So I think that's going to be an increasing trend, also,
Sure.
pretty much.
What do you think would help those genres grow as a whole? In a previous interview I had with Ed ED209,
Oh yeah,
we had a brief discussion about how both synthwave and chillsynth are starting to feel a little oversaturated and samey. What do you think
Yeah.
would alleviate that?
If people move away from the kind of the generic wumpy synths, like the one that one sound that was used in Resonance and a lot of other um, songs, and if people start to experiment more with more hi-fi sounds, because it's still all pretty it's all pretty low-fi, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Um it's really compressed, low passed, saturated. Um but it would be interesting to see people also go towards the more experimental side. Throw in some world instruments. I don't know. just just do something that makes you stand out. Try some other production techniques, like for example, Fowie, or however you pronounce his name. Um, he released an EP a good while ago called Rosebud, I think it was,
Hmm.
and it was so good. I was like, damn, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I mean with um, trying out more stuff with production techniques and all that stuff. It's more hi-fi. It still kind of has a lo-fi element, but it's not as like low pass and compressed. Uh, he uses like, I don't know how he called them, like synthesized marimba sounds.
Okay.
Like the kind of the sounds you hear on like 90s, like late 80s or 90s FM synthesizer, like the Korg M1 or the Wave Station.
Sure.
And it's so catchy. Like that's that's the type of stuff I like to see, pretty much.
Awesome. Who are you listening to right now for influence and inspiration? I know Hello Meteor's been mentioned quite a bit. Is there anyone else that's been standing out to you?
Yeah, for sure. Cinnamon Chasers,
Oh,
big influence.
yes. Yes.
Oh, you know them too. All
I
right, let's
love
go.
cinnamon chasers. They're so good.
Yes, I mean, I've kind of started getting into them last year. Um, like, well, no, actually, back in 21, I discovered Love Deluxe, and I
Hmm.
was instantly hooked. But then last year, I found out about the Doorways album, which
Yep.
definitely is my favorite album right now by him. Uh, and I don't know, his. I just love that he combines the kind of the outrun or the synthwave style with more melodic house stuff,
Hmm.
and it's just so catchy. It's hard not to get inspired by it. So yeah, and there's this other guy, Martin Roth. He's been also like he's been a respected Anjuna artist, but he has also been experimenting with a lot of other styles. Like he did a synthwave album last year. He's doing like neoclassical stuff as well,
Ooh.
kind of like Niels Fromm,
Okay.
and it's just so like some of that stuff is just so emotional as well. It's just beautiful stuff, and I would love to make a song or an album like that sometime, but it's tough. It takes a lot of effort.
Sure. Uh, with your increased success with each release, what has been the hardest thing to come to terms with?
Sorry, we're dropping out there a little bit. Could
Oh,
you repeat that?
yeah. With your increased success with each release, what has been the hardest thing to come to terms with?
Uh, ooh, I would say promotion probably. I've been like with each song, I try to promote it as best as I can, but sometimes I don't really know what else to do than just put it on social media, send it to Submit Hub or playlists,
Mhm.
But I don't know. It's just with every release, I kind of struggle to find a good way to uh, promote it as best as I can. Maybe gain more listeners than I had already. Um, but it just sometimes it just all depends on the song because music, of course, is subjective, and it's also really subjective for playlisters. Like I would have one song, I would send it to playlisters, and 9 out of 10 say, "Yeah, it's not a good fit." But then next release I do, they're all like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I love it. I'm gonna put it in my playlist." So I guess just um, that whole thing, like that, it's just varies per song. That each like not every song can get as much attention as some of the songs that were really got popular.
For sure.
Um, so I guess that's the main thing, but it doesn't take the fun away, in my opinion. Like I'm still happy that at least some people listen to it, and that already makes me happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that I think that's a fantastic way to think about it because there's only so much you can do. Um,
Yeah,
you can only send it to so many people. You can only post it on social media so many times. So the rest of it's just kind of just have fun with it. So
yeah,
that's a
for
great way
sure.
to think about it. All right, and then my last thing for you: what can we expect in the near future for Electronic Visions? I know you said you had an album on the
Yes, yeah.
horizon coming soon. Is there anything else we can expect either late this year, next year?
It's well, except for the album, it's still kind of a little bit hazy, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be doing um like a, kind of a more advanced music production course, um, and that's gonna be more focused on the music industry side of things, not necessarily just the production part, but also the music industry and promoting your stuff,
Hmm.
like writing to labels or trying to get your songs on labels or all that good stuff, right? So I just want to see where that course takes me, and also in terms of like new production skills. So it's still open, but I'm not giving up on this project at all. At least in the next decade, it I don't see it happening that I just give up on it. Yeah, I'd say this album that's gonna come out hopefully early. I'm not sure. I don't think I can say too much about it actually, but it is gonna be definitely a big step up from the previous two albums I did. It's gonna be amazing. The reason it takes so long is because we're trying to get it on a physical format again.
Hmm.
But more information about that in the near future. And yeah, I really can't wait for everyone to listen to it. It's gonna be great
I will
for sure.
be eagerly awaiting.
Oh yes, I've heard a lot of people say that.
All right, Luke, is there anything else that you want to go over before we call it?
um, well, not really actually. I just want to thank you for having me on. I usually don't do interviews, so doing this is definitely fun to do. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it greatly. You taking this hour out of your day. Sorry for the little hiccup that we had earlier.
No, that's okay, man. Shit happens.
All right. I like I said, I'll be eagerly awaiting for information on this new release.
Yes, expected very soon.
Hell yeah. Alrighty. Have a great rest of your day, man.
Thanks, man. You too.
Thank you.